Hi there, thanks for tuning into today's Wednesday with Wit. I'm Wit, and today we'll be discussing my 2022 reading list. Yes, you heard me correctly, my 2022 reading list. So these are all of the books that I read or listened to on audio last year. Now, last year I made a reading and listening list, and I will make sure that I put a link of that in the description below, as well as link it to this video for you to view. Before we even get too deep into this book list, I already know I'm going to butcher some of these authors' names, and I'm going to try not to. Instead, I'm going to just put it on the screen for you to see instead of me messing up their names. So I'm sorry to these authors. I feel like Keke Palmer. I'm sorry to that man.
Just say it. I hope I don't sound ridiculous. I don't know who this man is. I mean, he could be walking down the street. I wouldn't know a thing. Sorry to this man.
But I'm very sorry if I mess up their names. But I will definitely put their names, first and last names, in the video, as well as link it below in the description. In 2022, I read the book More Than Enough by Elaine Welteroth. In this book, Elaine did a beautiful job of going over her entire life story and just showing how there were many points throughout life where she was given the opportunity to know and recognize that she was really more than enough, and how it took her years to come to that understanding and that realization, and the beautiful journey throughout. It was very encouraging and inspiring, and it talked about the boldness and the steps she had taken in her life and in her professional journey and in her love life as well. Great read. Another book that I read in 2022 was Positive Affirmations for Black Girl Magic, Success, Wealth, and Higher Self-Esteem by Sophia, Leach. This book was beautifully written. It was a very quick, simple read, but it had beautiful affirmations that affirm being a Black woman and all of the things that Black womanhood entails. The next book is What I Know for Sure about Oprah Winfrey. So I love Oprah. She's like Beyonce. Like, they just can't do no wrong, my book. So I really like Oprah, and I'm happy I got to read this book. But What I Know for Sure, it really just like kind of takes us through some good wisdoms, truths, why tells, however you want to word that, but it walks us through just kind of like these proverbs that Oprah lives by, and like how she got to them and why. You know, like, this is what she knows, this is what she's gained in this many years old at this age, and what life has taught her. And I really liked it. So it was like a peek into her life, how she arrived at what she arrived at, like why did she come with these conclusions of like, this is what you really know, what molded that. I really like seeing that behind the scenes kind of in-depth analysis of like, how did you arrive at these wisdoms, how do you use these thoughts or these wisdoms, these proverbs to guide your life and your decisions, like what made you prioritize them in that sort of way. So good read. Next is Let That Shit Go by Nina Purewal. So this book, I listened to it on audio. It was read by her and a friend, and I really liked it. It was a great story. Again, a young Indian woman who had she had some tough trials. Like, another person just has a great testimony about what she had to overcome in life, and forgiveness and showing yourself grace, like even in the mess. And I really enjoyed listening to her about letting stuff go, because sometimes I can like be really serious, really, you know, step by step, and so just letting stuff go and like going with the flow, and like let it just roll off your shoulder. In the book, she also gives some ideas for meditation, and so that's a practice that I have been trying to pick up in 2022. So I think if you're interested in meditation and just some breathing work, this is another good book for you to check out. Next is Atomic Habits by James Clear. James Clear is like that man when it comes to like blogging. So I learned about his blogs from a colleague of mine a few years back, and she really loved his work. Definitely think you should check out his blog if you haven't seen it. But in this book, Atomic Habits, he talks about how we can make small little changes to build up these big habits. You know, like when we're thinking about making change, sometimes we get intimidated by, or we get discouraged by the big leap or the big change, like I'm gonna stop doing this completely, right? But really, we could be making small atomic changes, small atomic changes, and then those will happen over time, and that will lead us to the bigger change that we're hoping to seek. So if you're looking to make some changes in your life this upcoming year, like, that's a good book to check out. And he also teaches about like the habit tracker and things like that, and he has some free resources on his website to accompany the book, so check it out. Next is Feeding the Soul, because that's my business, by Tabitha Brown. So I absolutely love Tab, another Black female author on my 2022 list. And again, she has an amazing testimony. This sister has been through it, but she's come out on the other side. You know, it was like a 20-year, 15-year journey for her to see the success that we see today. For us to know her name and her to be the household name and be everyone's, you know, I think she said America's mom is what she wanted to be, you know, but it took years of behind the scene work, grind, sacrifice for her to get there. And so seeing her testimony on the other side, and then also she's a woman of faith, so she brings in a lot of faith, and great story. And she reads the book to you too, so it's like, I don't know, she just gives me like mama vibes, like give me a hug, like just, you know, like when you're greeting somebody, your auntie, they're like, come on in, give me a hug. That's the vibe that her voice gives me. Having her read the book, it was just like, oh, like you feel like you're just sitting there talking to her. So that was really nice. Check it out. The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. This famous book, The Alchemist, details the story of the protagonist. His name is Santiago, and he goes on a mission to find his personal legend. And it takes him all around the world, seeing beautiful sights, meeting people, having these different experiences that all contribute to his life, and finding his personal legend. So it was a really good book. Definitely like had some hidden wisdom and gems and just like life notes that we should take away. So I think you might enjoy that. Next is Empowered Black Girl by MJ Fievre. This book had lots of inspirational like quotes by some powerhouse and like trailblazing Black women. I really liked this one. Again, it was another like motivational one where it's like, and it had really cute pictures too. I don't know if I mentioned that. It had really cute pictures, but you know, it definitely had some affirmations, things to encourage you to keep going, keep fighting the good fight. So I really like this book. Next was Believing Bigger by Marshawn Evans Daniels, and I really, really liked this book. I liked it so much. I listened to it on audio, and then I bought it in hardback. Matter of fact, I think it's on my shelf. And not only did I buy the book, I also got this, like, I don't know if you can see it, but it's just like prayers to share and pass along. So I really, really like, it's 100 prayers to share, and it's called Believing Bigger. I'll put that up there. But yes, I really, really enjoyed this book. Marshawn has a story. Oh my goodness. This year of 2022, like a lot of the books I read was about Black women, Black authors, and they had such powerful testimonies of things that they had overcome in life, hardships and challenges, and then how that was really the springing board to move them forth for their next adventure or journey. And Marshawn's story of Believing Bigger was right in alignment with that. The first chapter almost like takes you out completely. Then seeing how she moved from such a devastating event and series of events to become who she is today. Woman of faith, you know, so she also teaches about how others can do the same things she did, you know, pick up their broken pieces and mend them back together to make a beautiful mosaic. So that's what that book was all about. I really, really enjoyed it. And she was just like so real and matter-of-factly. So that was really cool too. Next was Atlas of the Heart by Dr. Brené Brown. So I love Dr. Brené Brown. I like all the books that she's done so far that I've read. I really enjoyed this book because it walked you through several emotions. I can't even remember how many it was, but it walked you through like a handful of emotions. And it talked about how, you know, how you actually define each one of those emotions, and then how those are tied to or related and grouped together. So I really, really like that because it kind of broke down like what is rage, like what is grief, how do you know the difference between the two, and what are the feelings in between, and then the research that supports each one of those emotions. So just really well done, right in alignment with all of her other books that she's talked about in terms of like being able to identify what your feelings are and calling out those emotions. Another great read and resource. The next book was Find Your People by Jeannie Allen. So this book I really liked. It was a quick read for me. I actually listened to it on audio while I was working out. It was really simple, but it really talked about how do you find your tribe, find your people. And when you say your people, not just like accountability buddies and friends, but like people to actually do life with you. She talked about having like deep, meaningful connections versus having a lot of just surface level connections so that you can spur one another on. It reminds me of the Bible verse where it says iron sharpens iron. And so how do you create a community around you of people who are iron and going to sharpen you and help you develop as you continue to grow? So I like that one. The next book is I Own My Magic by Jennifer Michelle Goodlow. Now, this book I found from the public library. I really liked it. Again, another quick read, and it really focused on positive affirmations that you could remember and could recite to yourself or use as personal mantras. And so I really, really liked this book. Again, quick read, but great affirmations. Next was The Originals by Adam Grant. So I picked this book up once years ago and I was like, no, I don't want to read it. Came back to it this year and man, I really liked it. It was really powerful. It talked about like, how do you actually become an original and stand out? And he walked through like several different studies, several different like case studies, examples, people. He also infused a little bit of sports in there. So I like that. Talked about some well-known names and companies and stuff that you may recognize or know. And I felt like his writing was so powerful that it intrigued me into looking to another book of his that I'm currently listening to, and it's called Think Again, where we kind of rewire how we think and we start to think about what we think and thinking about, could it be wrong? How do we revise our thinking to maybe think something new now? So I'm currently reading that book, but with the Originals book, it was really good. And it was so good that I was like, oh my goodness, this Adam guy, I like him. So I started following him on LinkedIn. Come to find out, I had already liked a lot of his stuff. I just didn't make that connection. I liked him on another social platform, which was Pinterest. So it's like, man. So you might see a lot of his like tweets and stuff being posted or reposted. But I thought, as a social scientist, he had a lot of things to say and a lot of research to back it up. And, he even weaves his social science like research practices throughout the reading. So that was really cool too. Yeah. And I won't tell you too much of the book, but he definitely uses it while you're reading. And he's like, boom, made you think this because of, social conditioning. So it was great examples. I think you'll like it. The next book is Professional Troublemaker by Lovey Aji Jones. This book was amazing, and I listened to it on audio, and it was her reading it. So I was like, yay. So I really, really enjoyed that. Her voice, how she speaks, like very powerful. Had a lot of Nigerian influence because the author, she identifies as Nigerian American. And, again, lots of wisdom, lots of, walking in your truth, standing in who you are. I definitely think she has a very interesting life story and perspective to share, and one that audiences may not be as familiar with. So check it out. Next was Bamboozled by Jesus. So one of my girlfriends, closest friends, she told me like, Whit, you need to check this book out. And Bamboozled by Jesus, I probably left off the author, sorry. The author is Yvonne Orji. She was the same character, Molly, off of Insecure. So if you watched Insecure, I really loved that series. But this Bamboozled by Jesus, Yvonne really walks us through how Jesus like bamboozled her into having like the life of her dreams. She was always hesitant, fearful, things wasn't exactly as she had planned, and she kept moving forward each time and trusting God and where he was leading her and in the places he had her, and how it led her to this life where she's this big superstar, big comedian, in movies and TV shows and different things like that. So it was really inspirational and motivational of basically how do you keep going forward when you don't know the exact plan? And it was definitely a book of faith, which I really, really loved, and that resonated with me. Next is Set Boundaries, Find Peace by Nidra Glover Tawwab. This book was really good. It really focused on just setting boundaries and in our different relationships, how we can set boundaries to keep us safe. It was right in alignment with other books that I really like. I have a really favorite book that I recommend to everyone by Dr. Henry Cloud called Boundaries. And so I felt like this book was right in alignment with that. What I really appreciated about Set Boundaries, Find Peace was that it had a lens of being like a Black American or a Black person of color set to it. So how do those boundaries, how does that look to establish boundaries, to set boundaries? Because it's very nuanced depending on the person setting it. So I thought that I really loved that, and I appreciated her point of view in that book. The next book is Nice Girls Don't Get the Corner Office by Louis P. Frankel. Now, this book, I really liked it. So with this book, in the beginning of it, the title just kind of throws you off because you're like, hold on now, what? And I feel like I'm a nice girl, so I'm just like, oh my goodness, this makes so much sense. But when you read the book, it has an introduction, and then it has a quick assessment, and you take that personal assessment. I love a good assessment, so I can get some feedback. But reading that, you do the assessment, and then based on how you score on the assessment, that's what chapter you go to in the book. It gave me very much nostalgic vibes of Goosebumps for when I was a kid, and it's choose your own ending, turn to this page if you want this to happen, or this page if you want that to happen. It was just like that. So you didn't have to necessarily read the entire book. You can just focus on certain sections based on what your assessment scores were. So I really enjoyed this. I sent this to a lot of my female colleagues, co-workers, friends, women in the workplace that I knew. So definitely think this is a good one to check out. Next was The Untethered Soul by Michael A. Singer. Oh my goodness, y'all. This book was good. Wild, but good. So I can't remember if a friend recommended it to me or if I heard it on a podcast and heard it through a podcast recommendation. Can't really recall because I do listen to Oprah Super Soul podcast, and she did have him on as a guest speaker once, so I don't know. But anyways, I stumbled across this book, The Untethered Soul, and what I really liked and appreciated about this was how he talked about self-talk. How do we untether our soul? How do we get to the heart of who we're supposed to be, where we're supposed to be, what voice do we actually listen to that's going on in our head? Is the voice of doubt? Is the voice that keeps us going forward? And I love how he gave examples of that self-talk, how quickly our self-talk is triggered, or our mind is thinking about something just because we saw something, or it reminds us of something else. So it was just a very interesting read. There was a lot of times where I was like, hold on, let me run that back, well, say it again, so it was good. I think you'll like it if you want to think about your thinking and think about how you arrived at that thought or that emotion. Next is Finding Me by Viola Davis. Oh my goodness, this book was so good, and she read it. I love her voice, how she speaks. It gives me very much, puts me in the mindset of my twin. Everybody tells me I look like Angela Bassett. So, but they just have those voices. Viola Davis, Angel Bassett, they just have those voices where you're just yes, everything you say. But she reads the story to you. It's really good hearing it come from her voice. I was very surprised. I did not know that she grew up in poverty, in such extreme poverty, and in very racist environments. So, her talking about that, her life story, her family, I love that she was just very raw. She told it, she didn't try to dress it up. Family can be messy. Everybody knows that family can be messy, but we still try to hide the mess, and she didn't. So I just really appreciated her life story. I already loved her from How to Get Away with Murder and The Help. So this is just adding to another level of, yeah, I really like her. I really love her. I think you might enjoy this if you want to hear empowering life story of someone overcoming hardships and just becoming that woman and doing her thing. Definitely just blossomed into a successful actress, and that's beautiful. You love to see those, started from the bottom, made it to the top stories when they really deserved it, and like had no handouts, no nothing. So yeah, really dope. Check it out. The next book is When Women Pray by T.D. Jakes. So my cousin recommended this book for me, and she's like, oh, you got to read this book. It is so good. So I listened to it on audio, and oh my goodness, it really was good. I will say my one critique though is that T.D. Jakes didn't read it. I was just thinking, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna hear T.D. Jakes' voice again, somebody else who like has that voice. But yeah, he didn't read it, so it's okay. But it was so good. I think the reader was Brent Jennings, but it was still really good. I really liked this book. It really talked about, you know, when women really pray, whether it's the simple prayers, whether it's the big elaborate prayers, whether it's the prayers because you're scared, like all of those prayers, they mean something to God. He hears you, and you know, he's able to use you to be able to change the world. So I really enjoyed this book. There was some parts where I just had to listen to it over and over again because he is such a good storyteller, where he puts you in the mindset of, yes, this is what you read pages in the Bible. However, like, this person was human. So put yourself, if you was that same human, what would you be feeling, thinking if this happened to you? So I really liked that. And that made those biblical characters more real life to like and applicable to today. Like, what would that look like in today's time? So I think he just did a really awesome job of explaining like perspective and what happens when women pray. Like, we can move the world. So yes, another great read. The next book is You Are a Badass by Jen Chinchero. So one of my homeboys put me onto this book. He was like, wait, you gotta check this out. It's really good. He was like, I think this is a book you would really like. And he was absolutely right. I really liked this book. I thought that she gave a lot of meaning behind like living and being your authentic self, which is something I really truly believe in, and just showing up as who you are, and the different ways that you are affirmed when you show up as who you really are, and a lot of the things that you think or some of that negative self-talk, it's just really in your mind. Other people may not be thinking it. So I really like this book. I think you should definitely check it out if you need like that little confidence boost to give you like that little pick-me-up. Okay, the next book, A Minute to Think by Julie Funt. I'll be honest, I did not finish this book. It didn't resonate with me for what I needed at that particular time. The book really focused on, you know, how we can minimize distractions and minimize the mindless things that we engage in to keep ourselves distracted from actually feeling, doing, and you know, processing problems or working through whatever we need to work through. And so, like I said, it didn't really resonate with me that much. So I got through the first couple of chapters and I was just like, it's not engaging me. So I actually put that one down. But y'all let me know in the comments if you do like that book, and if maybe I should pick it back up. Dang. This list is long. I didn't realize that I had read that many books and listened to that many books, but whatever, gotta share. And that sums up my 2022 reading list. Let me know what you think about some of the books that I discussed in this video. Write in the comments, did you like them, not like them? Do you have recommendations, additional books that I should check out in 2023? I'd be interested to see and add those to my list. That's all I have for you today. Thanks for tuning in to today's Wednesday with Wit. And until we meet again, take care.